Blues Matters here. Got Megan Parnell of Bywater Call over in Canada. Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Oh, I'm not bad at all. Let's go back. What made you want to be a musician in the first place? What's the backstory to Megan?
I've always identified as a singer, even when I wasn't doing it professionally. So it's always kind of been a part of me. I don't really remember a time where that just wasn't something I was doing on a swing in the backyard or my grandmother taking me over to her neighbors and having me put on a little show. So it's just always been a part of me. And then I had an opportunity 20 years ago to join a couple cover bands and just really, really loved doing that. So it just kind of grew from there.
And what kind of music were you listening to when you were growing up?
It was all over the place. Anything from Janis Joplin, Bonnie Raitt, there's a BB King album in the house for sure, to Midler was one of my first idols in terms of singers and performers. And then that, of course, changes through the years. And I was really into musical theater for a while. That was a path I was going to pursue for a bit, but didn't take it too seriously. And yeah, to now, listening to anything from Otis Redding and Marvin Gaye to Amy Winehouse to Alabama Shakes and Tedeschi Trucks and it's all over the place.
And Bywater Call, when did you join Bywater Call? What was the story around?
Dave and I started that band, kind of the seedlings of it planted at the end of 2016 and really started taking shape early 2017. The two of us had been working together in a fairly successful cover band, private function band that he had started. And we had been doing that for a long time. And we're kind of getting to the point. We'd always talked about writing. We just didn't have the time. But we were getting to kind of a breaking point where we were like, we can't keep doing other people's music in this kind of setting, or we're going to kind of lose our love for performing. And the cover band was doing well enough that I could quit my day job and create a little bit of extra time. So that's what I did. And then I committed us to a half an hour opening set for a friend, which kind of forced our hand in terms of writing, 30 minutes worth of the first few tunes. And that's how it all started.
And going live, when was the first time you were on stage professionally?
Professionally, probably about 20 years ago when I started doing the cover band stuff. I don't know, 18 to 20. I have lost track of time, to be honest. But previous to that, I had done a lot of choirs and school musicals and stuff like that. So I was always on stage in some form. Whether or not I was being paid for it was, a different question.
And sort of reading an audience, when you're on stage, can you read an audience now? I mean, what kind of set that you do, a set list?
I mean, Dave does most of the set writing, but and we kind of he doesn't write it until we go, until maybe like half an hour before we go on. Just getting a feel for the environment that we're in. What kind of a venue is it? How many people are going to be there? Is it a festival? Is it a soft seater? Is it, a cafe environment? Is it a standing concert venue? So we do switch it up kind of depending on what the environment is, but always with the goal of giving the audience a journey to follow us on.
And are there particular memorable concerts that you've done?
We have done so many.
Mm.
I mean, we had on this last tour that we just got back from in Europe, we had a little bit of a fight break out at the front of the stage. So that's sticking in my brain for now.
Yeah?
We're high energy, but not a particularly rowdy band. But there was a guy who had pushed his way to the front who was having a little too much fun, had probably had a little too much of something and was really kind of getting in the way of other people. And, it was enough that I was like, we have to stop the show. I can't. Until we deal with the situation, we're going to stop the show and get this person out and then continue on when everybody feels safe. But yeah, that's probably the most recent memorable one. Another one would be we played the Moulin Blues. The first time we played the Moulin Blues Festival in the Netherlands, I kind of rushed off stage when we were done, not expecting to do an encore, and went over to the merch table. And then they were calling for an encore. And the guys got back on stage and I tried to get back on stage, but I went the wrong way and I ended up running through the audience and the guys couldn't see me and I couldn't find a way to get back on stage. And eventually a couple of people in the audience ended up kind of hoisting me up on stage and over the monitors so I could get up and we could do a quick encore. So that sticks too.
And Any favourite venues to play?
There's so many for so many different reasons, you know? Playing in Toronto is always really special to us. We only do it once a year right now. So, doing a hometown show and seeing hometown people is great. The crowds in the UK are awesome. And it's really hard to pick one venue there, but Newcastle and Glasgow and London are always like really, really good energy. There's some rooms in Germany and the Netherlands that we've done a bunch of times now and are always super reliable. I think the ones that now we know what to expect from them and we know we're going to get a good crowd and we're really going to be able to feed off the energy. Those ones, but you find new ones all the time.
And do you find much difference in audiences in America compared to Europe?
I used to think so, but now I feel like it's different even from venue to venue. But I would say, it is, we have found in Europe and in the UK, it builds a little quicker. They're a bit more willing to take a chance on a band that they've never heard of before. So that's definitely a difference. Some parts of Europe we find are a little bit more reserved as an audience, but always show their appreciation after tunes, even though they might not be dancing. And then you go to Spain, and in Spain, they'll just ram into a tiny little sweaty venue and everybody's, really high energy. But I do find now I'm like, things that I expect aren't always they don't always turn out the way I expect them to. So I don't think you can really predict an audience anymore, depending on where you are.
How do you keep your motivation going for what you do?
I love it. It's really cool that we get to do this for a living and travel the world and entertain people. And, I always make a point to go out to the merch table after the show so that I can talk to the audience. And that's always inspirational, knowing that you're really reaching people and they're really enjoying what you're doing. That always helps for sure.
Yeah, it's the communication between the audience and the entertainer, shall we say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. We can't do it without an audience, the audience who comes to the show and then spreads the word online and to their friends, and that's what makes us grow. So,
Yeah. You've got a new album coming out, Broken Souvenirs. Do you want to
yes.
talk about that?
Sure, we're really excited about it. It comes out July 29th. Super, super proud of this album. It's the second one that we self-produced. Dave really handled a lot of that role. He really directed how a lot of the album came together. And we worked with an engineer here at home called Pat McGordy, who also acted a little bit in that role. And we tried to take a couple of different approaches and tunes. We did some old school soul stuff that we hadn't really done before, which came out really nicely. And then also we tried to do some new school and use some new sounds. Our new keyboard player, Andrew Mulgin, does a lot of synth work. He's really great at that. So we wanted to incorporate some of that vibe. And our musical tastes are always evolving and the bands we're listening to are always evolving. So we like to incorporate, a bit of the vibe that we're currently listening to. So we're excited. We're proud.
And how would you describe your style of music to anyone that hasn't heard you before?
Yeah, it's difficult because it certainly doesn't fit in to one genre. So I've always described it as, to be succinct about it, Southern soul, roots rock, but there is retro soul in there. There's a little bit of funk. Mike is a fantastic funk bass player, so there's always a little bit of that. We've incorporated a bit more kind of folk feel to it, Americana. So it's really kind of, we do try to bend genres and meld genres while trying to keep a consistent sound that is distinctly, and hopefully as we do this more and more, even more distinctly our own.
And talk about some of the songs. Do you collaborate on the songwriting?
This album is, and traditionally, most of the tunes, 98% of the tunes on any of our albums have started with Dave and I. Mostly Dave, who usually comes to me with an idea, whether it's sometimes just a chord progression vibe, or sometimes he's got some lyrics worked out to get me started. And then him and I kind of go back and forth with that a little bit, developing the tune to a point that we think that it's a really good skeleton, and then we'll take it to the band to finish workshopping the tune to get it to its final product. But we would love to do more collaborations, and it's something that we're looking into in the future, with the band and with other musicians and such.
So Hold Me Down, where did that come?
And that was the first one we wrote, and it was the first one we recorded for the band for this album, and we were really into kind of a real retro soul vibe that we wanted to capture. And Dave brought the idea to me. Didn't really have the melody or the lyrics fully formed, and I kind of, we've been listening to a lot of Alabama Shakes, and I was like, well, what if we start the tune with kind of this neat Brittany Howard kind of scream, something a little bit different, and that we were like, oh, that's really cool. Let's make that the tune. So that's how that one came about. Yeah, that one came fairly fully formed from Dave. He had most of the lyrics written for it. Beautiful kind of finger picking acoustic guitar, which we do a few times on this album, kind of strip it down. One of the focuses for this album was really getting better at our storytelling. So that tune's really kind of about the vulnerability of putting, your personal art into the world. And then we kind of passed back and forth the melody a bit. So that was kind of the thing that we workshopped the most. Kind of a Shaky Graves inspiration a bit with the melody, and it came together really nicely.
No One Else?
That's kind of that one with a couple of the other tunes was a bit more of our modern twist tunes, but still capturing, somebody commented on the video for that one recently because it's already out, that to me it sounds a bit modern, but somebody else was like that. It sounds like sounds like 60s. So that's a lot of what we're trying to do, where it's like, if you listen to it one way, it sounds new. And if you listen to it another way, it sounds old. And and lyrically, that one's a bit of a kind of a statement about our environment with like social media and politics and how everything kind of gets everything is divisive. And I think we have to, hold ourselves accountable for how we conduct ourselves online and stuff like that.
Yeah, what are your views on social media?
I mean, it's necessary for a musician these days, and it's a really great way to meet, or for new fans to meet your music, and for existing fans to kind of communicate with you, which is great. I stay away from a lot of personal stuff on social media, just because it can be a very toxic environment in terms of hiding behind a computer screen. It's really easy to be nasty and negative, and I can't get on board with that.
But it's another way of expressing your music as well. There's so many different ways now. It's all instant.
Yeah, it's a great way to kind of show people what we're up to, what's going on, what new stuff we're coming up with, where we're going to be. It's a great essential tool as a musician for that kind of stuff, for sure.
Right, the next track is Only.
Another
Where
retro
does
soul
that come
tune.
from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of a Marvin Gaye, Al Green vibe. Again, digging into a bit of that softer, laid back, feel good retro vibe, for sure. Typical unrequited or love lost kind of tune.
Yeah. And Way to Go.
Bit more, got to incorporate definitely some like bluesy, rocky part of the journey, high energy. So Way to Go was again an earlier tune that we wrote for the album. And you got to have a few tunes in there that you don't want to make people think too much, or just want to make them feel good. So that's one of those.
And So Far?
Kind of like No One Else. It's one of our more kind of experimental, forward-thinking tunes in terms of the production on it. Really love that one. I think it sounds really cool. The guys came up with some really great horn lines to complement a lot of these tunes, especially the ones that feel a bit modern, and then the horn lines can kind of bring it back. And So Far is kind of a self-reflective tune, where you feel like you need to kind of get away from what you are, what you have been, and sometimes that takes you to a place where you don't really recognize yourself anymore.
It really expands the storytelling, I think, as well, that particular song.
Yeah, I really like the lyrics on that one, and again, storytelling was a prime focus for us. We've tried to really progress as lyricists and storytellers as we move through the albums.
And then you've finally brought out Clutter.
Yes, live, a fan favorite. We love that tune. That's
Yeah.
another kind of Dave Barnes specialty. I helped with some of the lyrics on that, but he really had that a solid idea for that tune when he first wrote it, and it's from the moment we started playing it, it really reaches people. It's a beautiful tune, and we kept it in its kind of earlier form for the album, which was when John Curvin was still in the band on keys. He also was a banjo player, and so we wanted to keep that vibe for the album. And then live now, it's got, this is what's really great about a lot of stuff that we do too, is like we have what we have on the album, which I think is all really great. But if you come to a show, you'll get a bit of a different experience. So that's one of the examples where the horns now do this really kind of beautiful line in the middle of it where the banjo used to be. And yeah.
Sally?
Feel good. I kind of think of it as our take on maybe Help from My Friends or The Weight, where it's just, it's, you know, a pick me up kind of you're not alone tune that just, it's just supposed to feel good, make you feel good. Americana, soul.
And how long?
That was probably the one that took the longest for us. Not the longest to write, but we were working on it a while back, and then we kind of stepped away from it. And it's one of these songs where we stepped away, and then we were talking about finishing the album, and I'm like, can we go back and listen to that? Because I think we have it on that tune. And then having the space and going back and listening to it, I was like, yeah, that's a good tune. It's got to go on the album. Really vibey and really nice kind of melody line on it. And yeah, love that
It's
one.
pretty infectious.
Yeah.
It's like getting to the chorus. It's a really standout one.
Yeah. And one of the things that came together really nicely on that one as we were in the studio was our friend Tafari Anthony, who's amazing, did the Bee Gees on that one. And when we were doing the final mixing, we were like, whoa, those Bee Gees sound great. Like, let's make them a bit of a focus, which, you know, kind of, I don't know, really helped bring the tune together.
And No Friend of Mine.
Another kind of just more on the bluesy rock and roll, you know, close your eyes and just bop your head. And the lyrical inspiration is, you know, a pick me girl kind of thing or whatever, you know, girls who kind of betray friendships for men. And fortunately, I don't really have much experience with that, but I just really liked the line, ain't no friend of mine. So kind of took that and turned that into a tune. And we wanted a catchy chorus that was easy to kind of sing along. So that was where we kind of came up with like an easy sing along chorus with not too many lyrics. And yeah, really fun live. Bruce does a great drum solo intro on it. And yeah.
And Yard Sale.
Yard Sale is my baby.
Mm-hmm.
I was just something I started writing, which was the idea, you know, a woman who's lost her partner and now has to go through the task of kind of clearing out the home of what's been left behind. And I just had an idea for how I wanted it to sound, but because I don't really play an instrument, I was like, I don't know how to bring this together. And I described it to Dave, and he brought it together for me perfectly with the guitar on it. And that one, and Is This Thing On, were the first time we brought string lines, a string section into the tunes, and I really think those elevated those songs as well. Our friend Maya Kiltron helped with the string arrangements, and Steve Dite and Andrew Mulgen also helped with the arrangements for the two tunes that the strings are on. And yeah, it came together really beautiful. And I think it's just a really nice way to end the album, kind of reflective and somber. Yeah.
Have you sung Yard Sale live yet?
No, it's the only one we haven't played live. I'm not sure what to do with it. I love the song. One of the things with our live show is we have such a great repertoire of like ballads and stripped down tunes now that, you know, we kind of have to pick and choose them because we want to make sure that we offset that with like a bunch of high energy and groovy tunes. So we'll play it at some point.
I know the tune's going down well live.
Feels like it. Yeah. Just finished a really, really nice run in Europe. So
great. What about the blues? What does the blues mean to you as an artist?
I mean, for me and for what we do, it's the foundation of so much music that we listen to. And while we don't do traditional blues, I don't think it would be appropriate for us to do traditional blues. I think that was born out of strife and struggle, and that's not something that we experience. But paying tribute to and acknowledging that the progression of that art form has brought us to where we are today with so many different genres. So for me, it's just, to me, it's the foundation of so much music, and respecting that and honoring that.
What about the future for Bywater Call? You've got another part of the tour coming up?
The rest of this year is a bunch of Canadian and US dates, which we're really looking forward to. And then we head back overseas in January and February next year with a big UK run, which we're really excited about. It's 12 shows, I think, 11. I don't have it in front of me, but it's going to be a really nice string of shows, which we're really excited about. Some of our favorite venues and some new ones too. And yeah, hopefully by then we'll have some more. We'll have our Broken Souvenirs album there for the first time, and then hopefully we'll also have some new stuff that we're working on ready to present also.
And the tour continues.
It never stops.
Do you get a balance between home life and touring life, or is that impossible?
Yeah, probably is not as much as we should. We try. I mean, it's important, to watch out for your mental health and all that kind of stuff. I do find, because Dave and I live together and run this band together, that it's very hard to shut it off. So even when we are home, most of the time we're talking about what we can do, where we can go with the music, working on new tunes. And when we do have a little bit of downtime, which often ends up being December, January, February, it's always kind of time to try to finish a new album. So it is hard to find time to kind of really step back from the band, especially in the environment that Dave and I exist in.
Are you able to keep that energy level going? How do you keep the energy level going?
Again, being on tour, and playing to appreciative audiences does it. And then just, the excitement about growing and progressing in the writing, and always trying to reach new people and new audiences. It's inspiring. It's also exhausting, and all this stuff. There's so much more to being a musician nowadays than just writing and performing music. So that's the stuff that kind of gets you bogged down. So just understanding that, can't do everything all the time, and being okay with that, which I'm still working on.
How do you feel when you're ready to get this album out?
I'm excited. I really love the album, and we've put almost half of it out there to kind of try to keep people excited about it. And yeah, I'm anxious for the whole thing to be out there. And so far we've had a lot of really, really nice feedback from the people who have heard the whole thing. So
Yeah. So you've got a hometown gig coming up soon then?
not hometown until probably December. We're still working on where we're going to do that, but we are doing a lot more kind of in and around where we live this year, which is really nice because we haven't done as much stuff in Canada as we would like to. So I'm really looking forward to that, and really putting some better foundations in at home. But at the same time, we're doing some really cool support slots for musicians, which we haven't had a chance to do up until now either. So that's exciting, and digging into some parts of the US we've never played before. We're going to be in Arizona. We've never played in Arizona. We've never played in New Mexico, parts of Colorado that we haven't seen before. So yeah, we're excited.
Well, sounds good. And finally, what have you got to say to the Blues Matters public?
Check out the new album, Broken Souvenirs. I hope you like it. And come see us in January and February in the UK. If you haven't seen the band live, it's a really cool, dynamic show that's different every night because of the way that the band improvises and plays off of each other. And yeah, spread the word. It takes an army.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Great talking to you, Megan.
Yeah, thanks so
Really
much,
good.
Colin. Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.